So I am Jeff Reber with ERA Heaven Realty, a local real estate broker in Jacksonville, Florida, here with BJ Johnson of Inside and Out Property Inspectors, also in Jacksonville, Florida. And I engaged BJ recently to try and pick his brain about a few things that have to do with property condition and inspections. And so we're going to talk about two different groups of people. The first of which is if you are getting ready to buy a house, or maybe you're even in the middle of buying a house and you're having an inspection that's going to be done. The question for BJ is, what are the things that freak people out sometimes that shouldn't? And what generally can you expect from an inspection? And how do you gauge whether this is good, bad, horrific, I should run away, or no big deal, I should stay put and continuing to buy this house? So BJ, fire away.
Well, thanks, Jeff, for inviting me on here, and I appreciate it. Yeah, I think the first and foremost thing going to a home inspection, either buy a new home, a new construction, or per se a used house, there's no house that's perfect. We always try to explain that to people that we can't build a perfect house. And there's always going to be some issues, some maintenance, some more than others. And, here in Florida, we're kind of unique with a little bit of the weather. We got a lot of hot weather, humid, a lot of sunshine. That's why we live in Florida. We don't deal with the winters. And that's why everybody wants to be here. But that also takes effect on some of the components of the house. They just wear out a little bit faster,
Sure.
And that's what we just try to educate people on is, if let's say a 3-tab shingle, is on a house and the house is 2014, well, it's 15 years. It's pretty much, it's done, but it's rated at 20, or some of the new ones are still rated at 30, but, it's just with our heat and our environment kind of, takes a little toll on the houses itself. So.
Sure. All right. So I've got a question on that one. Take the roof, for example. This comes up often in my world, and we'll see a roof that's maybe it's an architectural shingle. This came up recently, as a matter of fact. It's almost 20 years old. It's supposedly probably a 30-year shingle. An inspector, wasn't you for the record, but an inspector gave the buyers a tip that maybe this roof's getting towards the end of its useful life. So how are we to gauge what the future holds for a roof or an AC unit or a plumbing or electrical system? How do you get objectivity on what the future holds? Or do you just try and hedge your bet and get some sort of compensation for it? And if indeed it does fail moving forward, does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect. So I mean, it's a fine line with the home inspector, and then you got the seller on the other side. It's their house is perfect. There's nothing wrong, and it's not there to make anybody feel bad or anything like that. But it's a lot of the issues to where the insurance companies are setting the guidelines, on these lifespans.
Does that have anything to do with our recent hurricanes, or have you seen that as the case for?
Since claims have gone up, they have gotten a little bit stricter on some of their guidelines, and 4-point inspections, talk about that. That kind of goes into the expected lifespan and stuff like that. Generally,
tell us what a 4-point, for those that don't know, what's a 4-point inspection? What's that mean?
So the 4-point, it covers the main 4 components of the house, the roof, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC system. And it's basically what I tell people. It's a report card for the insurance company. Are you insurable or are you not? Is something broken? Are you high risk? Are you normal? Things like that. Generally, it's 25 years or older. There are, because of the hurricanes and stuff, there are some other companies out there now that if the house is 10 years or older, you got to get a 4-point, because of the recent storms. And that's the thing. Even though going back to the shingles, it's rated at 20, it's the insurance companies say, okay, 15, now you're a high risk. On the 30-year architectural, which most of them are rated at 50 now, at 20, you're rated at a high risk.
Right.
But what the new buyer needs to kind of expect, like if it has a 3-tab or, it's, the last third of its lifespan, if it's only got 4 or 5 years left on it, they need to know that that roof, even though it may not be leaking today, it's more susceptible to leaks.
Sure.
It has a higher risk. You may have to do a little more repairs, but then that's kind of the fine line of saying, all right, I'm not spending $1,000 here, $1,000 there for my repairs when I should just spend that money to a new roof.
Right.
Type of
and I'll tell, so two things. One, in the case of insurability, oftentimes I've found that just because company A won't insure it, or they have guidelines that won't allow them to, we can find company B that will, and maybe it's a bit more expensive as far as the insurance goes, but usually you can find an exception to that rule. And then the second thing was, like you said, just because the roof is nearing the end of its life doesn't mean that it's going to fall apart tomorrow. So let's move forward in the deal if you still like the house, and maybe get a concession for it, create a budget for it as you buy the house and live in the house, and don't be caught off guard by something like having to replace a roof. So that's great stuff. Let's transition over to people who are just living in their house and everything is great. What are the little landmines that you come across when you're doing inspections that you see and think, oh my word, if this person would have just addressed that issue and spent 45 seconds on it a couple of years ago, I wouldn't be finding this huge
dealing with this now.
Yeah.
So two things come to my mind about this kind of a situation. And a lot of times what I see with these is always lack of maintenance. It's always lack of maintenance that caused this issue that could have been done prior to. One, something simple is, the cracking of the grout inside your shower.
Okay.
It's always going to crack. And it's constantly wet. Most of us take showers every day. Some take longer than others, but
let's hope most of us take showers every day. Let's hope.
Most,
we'll assume that. That's good.
But it's a constant direct contact with water. And in those, even though it's designed for a wet area, in those side of those cracks, it can eventually get in behind there and start breaking it down behind there, and tiles start popping loose, things like that. And then eventually cause more moisture damage later on to where, well, now I got to redo a whole new shower.
Right.
Now that's, maybe a year or so of neglect.
Sure.
But it's still a small, simple fix that can prevent a $3,000 to $5,000 repair.
Totally. Yeah. You could have bought a bag of grout for a few bucks at Home Depot, or renovate your shower for several $1,000s. So pick your poison. Anything else that comes to mind as far as traditional Florida home maintenance items that people can be thinking about?
Stucco. Stucco is very popular here in Florida.
Okay.
You can Google it. You'll find horror stories everywhere.
Sure.
Two things, most of the failures is due to improper installation, but a lot of it's just lack of maintenance. They think, oh, I bought a stucco house, it's bulletproof, I don't have to
hands off, I don't have to do anything. Right.
Exactly. Right. And what most people don't realize is, even on new construction, within the builder's guidelines and their structural warranty, it says in there, you have to seal the cracks and repaint your house within the first 3 to 5 years. Okay. People are like, well, it's new, it shouldn't have to do that. And but paint is part of the stucco system. So anytime we see that, there's always visual cues. The hairline cracks, you need to seal those with the appropriate type of caulk. More type of elastomeric, which is designed for stucco. And then if you start seeing discoloring or a chalky surface, that's the number one visual cue saying, hey, you need to, we don't want to say repaint, but now you need to waterproof my stucco. Because we recommend waterproofing it so no more water penetrates stucco like it did the first few years.
I'm going to ask a selfish question in relation to stucco. So I have a stucco house, but it's a concrete block house. Is there a difference in what I need to be worried about if it's a frame and stucco over frame house versus concrete block?
So there is definitely a difference. Obviously the wood frame with the traditional stucco applied to it is a little more vulnerable than a block house, with the stucco. But I think more importantly, with the block house with the stucco over it, you're still going to get the hairline cracks, and you may see a little bit of the step cracking because of the block. But it's even more important to waterproof that stucco and not just paint it, because now it can absorb into the block, get down. You may start seeing some staining around the perimeter of the house, you know, on the baseboards, things like that. Once again, it's just more vital to know that that waterproofing, like Sherwin-Williams makes a product called Loxon XP. We recommend it all the time. It's a waterproofing type of elastomeric paint that is designed for stucco. And I think it's even more important on a block home.
Yeah, that's what we used. And not because I knew, but because my painter knew. So thank goodness.
Yeah. And you know, using that product to just the regular paint is about double the cost.
It was not cheap, as I recall. I'm not like the cost of paint expert, but I remember thinking, is paint really this expensive? But my painter pointed out that it was a different type of paint.
It's a premium paint.
There we go. I was trying to tell him, listen, I'm not a premium kind of guy, like cars, you know, toys, whatever. Keep it simple. But okay, if we're painting stucco and it needs to last for a while and do a good job, we'll go premium, I guess. So that's good stuff. Anything else as a final thought on that comes to mind, or is that kind of check off the main boxes for home maintenance tips from BJ in 2019?
Pressure washing, you know, even whether it looks like it needs it or not, once a year. But the thing is, too, where we see a lot with the pressure washing gone wrong is people think, oh, man, I'm going to get my windows squeaky clean with that 3,000 PSI. And they're spraying the windows.
Water into the seams, yeah.
Well, not only water into the seams and into the house, but guess what? A month later, summer comes. Well, now they got all these fogged windows.
Oh, goodness.
They don't realize that high pressure deflects the glass and breaks the seal. But they're thinking they're getting their windows clean instead of doing a soft wash type on that.
Right.
You know, and we've gone into numerous houses, just been pressure washed, you know, a few months before, and, you know, they got 20 fog windows. They're like, well, I don't know why they fogged. And I guarantee you it's because of pressure washing.
Man, that's a great tip. I've never even thought about that. And I just had my house pressure washed a couple months ago. So hopefully he did not heavy wash windows. Yeah, I don't think so. He knew what he was doing. So I'm pretty sure I'm safe. I was going to ask a follow-up question, though, because I've seen people do this before. Pressure washing the roof. Good idea, bad idea, never, ever. Soft wash. Like, what do you do there?
Keyword, soft wash.
Okay.
Pressure wash, if you get that high pressure, you know, it's going to take those granulars right off and you just ruined your roof.
You're taking the life down. Yeah.
Biggest thing is hire an expert. You know, I mean, we got a lot of DIYers and we all think we know what we're doing sometimes. But, you know, it just definitely a soft wash, not a high pressure.
For sure.
So,
well, good stuff. Well, I think we have, or you have rather, brought a ton of value. I am going to have a few tips to go back to my house with now, and additionally ask my pressure washing company if they hit the windows too hard, although I don't know that there's anything I could do it at this point. But BJ Johnson, thank you so much. Inside and Out Property Inspectors. Go Google them. Go find them. Do you have a main phone number you want to give out here, BJ?
Yeah, we're local here, 904-395-1900.
There we go. There it is. And you can call me right over my shoulder. How do I get to it? There it is. 904-405-1995 comes direct to me. Hope all is well with you watching, and we'll catch up soon.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. See you.
Take care, BJ.